Well, it's been a minute, but we are back here for that 90s baseball pod powered by Access Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren, and you can find me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. And I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Gregg Olson. Gregg, I don't even know if I remember your Twitter handle. Is it Gregg Olson 30? Is that correct?
That would be it. Yep.
Yeah.
3Gs.
We've not covered much ground, or actually MLB has covered a lot of ground since you and I last talked. Baseball's back. It's about to start up here in 2 weeks, at least as far as the Minnesota Twins go. And we're back. So we've got a very, very special guest today, a guy who I know you know very, very well. I don't know if he was your setup man or what that hierarchy looked like, but it's Mr. Jim Poole, former left-handed big league reliever. Mr. Poole, so excited to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Brandon, I appreciate you having me on.
You bet. Yeah, and I could let you two just go, I bet, telling stories back and forth.
Gregg's always the better storyteller. I was fortunate enough to observe quite a few of them. Yeah.
No, we had fun. We were teammates, USA 87, 88.
Yeah.
And then Baltimore
91,
90, 92.
and 93
Yep.
when you got hurt.
And then again in Buffalo/Cleveland for a brief time in 95, and then opponents after that. But great friend of mine, and looking forward to just catching up and seeing what's going on.
Yeah. Brandon, the party's leaving out, and I don't know if Jill will let him live it down, is Gregg and Jill and my wife, Kim, and I got married on the same day, 1 hour apart. And the only reason it was 1 hour apart is because we were Eastern time.
Yeah, we're here on the central side of things. And so if people haven't checked out the show before, you're kind of the perfect test for us. Your career was 1990 to 2000. Yeah. We cover the 90s. So, I mean, not everybody gets to pitch for 30 years like Gregg did, but you're right you're right in our wheelhouse as far as those 10 years go. And the game, in my opinion, changed a lot in those 10 years. Would you tend to agree?
I'd agree. I definitely agree with that. How players approach getting ready in the off season. I mean, I got drafted in '88 and by the Dodgers, and at that point, the only weights that we were allowed to touch were the old Nautilus system. No free weights allowed. A few years later, I was in spring training with the Rangers, and they're throwing all kinds of heavy metal. Completely changed over the decade.
All right, I gotta go. I gotta go. I mean, your high school record was 2-16. Do I have that right?
That is a fact.
And
2 wins my junior year. The first win took me 10 innings and 150 pitches. Yeah.
All right, you earned that one.
Yeah. I and the team were not very good. Yeah, it was.
So you said you kind of self-recruited. You self-recruited yourself. That's
to Tech.
And so you walked on to Georgia Tech.
Close enough. I strong-armed for $500.
Nice.
Yeah. So I could officially say I was a scholarship athlete. I had way more. Say what now? Yeah, it was 10. We were quarters, and then it paid for my room for 1 quarter. That was it. Yeah, I had way more academic money that I had earned than I ever got athletic until my senior year.
So I got to hear the origin story of you meeting this guy here, because you guys go back a ways. I won't tell you how old I was when you guys met because I don't want to get in trouble, but it was around the time I was in diapers. So
wouldn't doubt it.
Well, we'll just say that he started watching after the Twins' second World Series,
which was a really bad time to start watching.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Greg and I first were opponents because Auburn and Tech would play each other. And, I mean, Greg was immediately burst on the scene. So it was fun to just watch him do his thing. I happen to know a couple guys on his team from summer ball. So it was, I was very appreciative of watching him pitch. And then my head coach at Tech, Jim Morris, was the pitching coach for the Pan Am team in '87. And that's really where we got a chance to connect and get to know each other.
Yep. And then, okay, so you turned down the draft in '87 because you wanted to finish your degree. Is that correct?
Well, that and the Dodgers recommended that I go back.
So they drafted you in the 34th round and they said to stay in school?
Yeah, the Dodgers, they did, I think they got to like $25,000 total. And so it was pretty easy to decide that I'm going back. I was an electrical engineer, studying for that. Getting to the big leagues was still not, in my mind, a likely scenario. So going back my fourth year was good. And it paid off for me, Greg. I just had to go through this about a month ago, but in '88, you and I were battling it out for strikeouts per 9.
Yep.
And Gregg, thankfully for me, got one more out that season that wasn't a strikeout. So I got him because I pitched 1/3 of an inning less.
You got me by it was 14.2 to 14.1, something like that.
Yeah, it was crazy small. It was all about you being too good and getting an extra out.
No. You guys were ahead of your time when it comes to strikeouts, because now strikeouts are all the rage. But back then, an out was an out was an out. They didn't really care how you got it. But by the way, at Tech, you must have played with Kevin Brown then, right?
Played with Kevin Brown for 2 years. Yeah, that was some kind of a nasty power arm right there.
Ooh, that sinker. Yeah.
I saw him walk out. That was my freshman year, and I don't know if I started the game against you guys, but I just sat there and was looking across the field going, this is the nastiest human being I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It maintained 13 years later with the Dodgers in 2000. It was just like, I'm looking at him going,
yeah,
you're unbelievable. How do you lose a game?
No doubt. I mean, I always felt the only way to beat him was basically to get like 13 ground ball singles, because that sinker was so hard to lift in the air.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, to tell you how naive I was and how little I had seen really good talent, my first year with him, I didn't really recognize how good he was. So as a sophomore, I didn't get it when he was a sophomore. When he was a junior, and he comes in, Scott Boras comes in and talks to the team because he's Kevin's agent or going to be his agent. And I start recognizing, like, not only this guy is really damn good, he's one of the best in the country. And then, became one of the best pitchers in our era. I think he probably gets overlooked. It's actually regrettable he signed the first $100 million deal. Right? Because a lot of times he gets thought of for that. He signed for the Dodgers, 7 years, 105, I think.
Sounds right.
Yeah. And, so people thought about that, but it really didn't get the credit for how good he was. Just dominant every time out.
He should have gotten more Hall of Fame consideration, frankly.
I don't think he put the wins up that he needed.
No, that's it, right? That's it.
Well, I mean, for me, you sit there and you look at, and I don't know, I mean, we've never sat around and talked about Hall of Fame, but I just look at, okay, Koufax had a shortened career due to shoulder, had 209, I believe. And then you got Mussina in at 222.
Yeah, something like that.
And I know Hudson.
No. Messina's up around 270.
You're right. Yeah, he's at 270, and then Bylevin was 268.
Yeah.
But you saw those numbers, and our former teammate for no, not yours, but mine, Kurt Schilling.
Yeah, and mine too with the Phillies.
Yeah, and it's just I don't think he's got enough wins. You're not supposed to take postseason
Right.
account. You know, I'm looking at Tim Hudson here in Auburn, Alabama, and he's got 222, and he had, you know, 222 and 133, some stupid win-loss. And
Yeah.
he was good. I'm like, if he doesn't get in, then I don't see where you put a cap on the bottom end.
Yeah, Brandon, you kind of makes me think, Brandon, you were asking about what I see change over the decade.
Mhm.
You know, by the time I was out, you know, if you pitched 7 innings, that was amazing.
By the time
You
it
know,
was done,
so
2000.
by the time we were leaving, I was leaving the game in 2000, it had already happened. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, you know, guys like Gregg being such closers, the complete games were already going down. But then even the setup men were becoming more and more important. That 95 team with the Indians, the starting rotation was good. But there weren't a whole lot of complete games because they built the bullpen to basically win it from the sixth or seventh inning on.
Yeah. Was that a John Hart team? I'm trying to remember who was in charge.
It was.
Yeah. So I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time, and so to see him be ahead of the curve like that's not surprising at all. Although if it's lamentable that it's changed the way the game is played, then yeah, I kind of see that point of view as well. But the back end of that bullpen, I mean, I hated you guys, and let me tell you why. Because I was a Minnesota Twins fan in 1995, and so they had nothing going for them.
Right.
And Kirby Puckett is out after that, and you know Paul Molitor comes in. We had Paul Molitor on the show about a month ago. I hated you guys in '95 because you were so dang good, just unbelievable.
Yeah, that lineup was. I know people are talking about the Dodgers lineup and all that right now, but
Or the Blue Jays.
or the Blue Jays, but that lineup, I don't know if there was ever a better one. That was great. Omar Vizquel was about the only guy in the lineup that you faced and you felt, okay, there's a reasonable shot. The ball's not going out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
You know, multiple Hall of Famers and or top players of the era were in that lineup.
Yeah, the Hall of
It
Very
was
Good.
scary.
The Hall
It
of
was
Very
scary.
Good. Yep.
You know, like Brandon, kind of go back to what you were talking about John. I don't know that John built the bullpen and the rotation the way he did because he thought that was the best way to win. I thought what he did was it was a cheaper way to build a full staff, right? Because now he had 2 older pitchers that he didn't have to pay top dollar, and Dennis Martinez and Oral Hershiser.
Right.
Charles Nagy was still young. And then we had solid guys behind him, young guys behind him. The bullpen was cheap, right? And you know, our closer was Jose Mesa, who really had not had a lot of big success yet. Paul Ostermacher was probably our best well-known reliever, but he wasn't making much money. So he liked putting money into the hitters, and he did it well.
Well, Mesa, to that point, I mean, I played with him. I think we both played with him in Baltimore. I wasn't sure when he left. But he had no success in Baltimore. Always had a high-end arm, but never, you know, they had him as a starter, didn't work. You guys had Plunk, who got kicked out of Oakland.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was kind of the tradition, and I know I went from Cleveland to Kansas City, and it was always, you know, everybody but the closer was, and in Kansas City was Montgomery, who, you know, talking about Hall of Fame. But I got picked up off the scrap heap, and everybody we had there was a, you know, a young guy that hadn't thrown much, so we'll throw them out in the bullpen because they're cheap and we can spend money on the everyday guys.
That's it. Yeah. So I don't know that John did it on purpose. But to me, that's what that tone did get set. I mean, I know the Braves at the time had an amazing rotation, but I think John was ahead of the game in terms of figuring out how to use it for the middle market teams anyway.
Yeah.
How to use their dollars better.
What is it? Whatever's born out of necessity. If you decide that you have to adhere to a certain budget, which I mean, Cleveland's still doing now. You guys might have had a higher payroll in '95 than they do right now.
You know, we really didn't have you know, if you go back in the line, I don't think we had a lot of guys getting paid a lot of money.
Not yet, at least. They
It was so young. Eddie Murray was on the back end of his career, so wasn't making a lot of money. Like I said, Orel Hershiser, Dennis Martinez. I mean, I'm pretty sure we were a middle market club. Now, I know the stadium had just opened up, so they had more local ticket revenue than they'd ever had. So they probably had more leeway. But it would be interesting to go back. But I'm confident that was not a big payroll squad.
Sure, and they're only at like 30, 35 million right now. That's the only reason I brought it up, because they've signed. Actually, they signed a reliever this morning, Brian Shaw. They brought back.
Right.
Now they're like 33, 38 million, something like that, which is crazy. Now, since I've got you on the Cleveland topic, before we go back to the beginning, talk me through playing at the Jake, because at that time the Jake was rocking. I know it's Progressive Field now, but it will always be the Jake for me, because that's how I was brought up. What was it like playing there? Because it always seems like such a cool place to play from my vantage point.
Yeah, so 994 when they opened up, I was going in as an Oriole. And so going in as a visitor, first of all, I was ecstatic not to be at Municipal Stadium anymore.
Right.
But the crowd was just so would play Hell's Bells for me. It was fantastic. So to get to experience that as on the home side, and remember, I come from Baltimore, that we had that super long streak of sellouts, and even though we were okay, right? We were never bad. We were never really good. We were okay, and the fans were really good fans. But Cleveland had something to root for, and those guys rocked that place. I have no doubt that in the last 3 innings of a ball game, if we had to come back again, I think we did it like 50 times that year, we were going to have a huge advantage, because that crowd was going nuts every day. They were prepared every day.
I have to ask one more thing before I hand it back to Gregg. How would you compare the transition from old stadium to new stadium in Baltimore versus Cleveland? Because you both went from, and maybe Gregg can speak to it because he was in the big leagues longer before Baltimore switched over. But I have to believe pretty similar. I mean, they're from the same era of parks that Texas opened a new one, and you guys were all kind of part of that wave. But I have to believe that's a huge fan experience thing, player experience thing. It's got to lift the vibe of the entire organization, unless I'm completely missing the point here.
Gregg, I think you're the better one for it. I'm not saying for me, I only had a couple months at Memorial, but it was the first place I was really establishing myself as a big leaguer, so I didn't care what the stadium looked like. With that said, walking into that clubhouse at Camden Yards the first time, my jaw was on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, you won the last game at the old stadium too, right?
I did. Yeah, I ended up pitching the last 3 games against Detroit. That last day, I'm pretty sure my arm was on a thread, but I wanted to be part of all those games, and yeah, that's one claim to fame I have with Baltimore.
Do you guys save mementos from those kinds of things?
No,
I can't. I got to tell you, I don't have that game ball. It wasn't counting on it being the last win, because I think it was the Saturday game.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Things you don't know when you're doing stuff. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we went through a whole ordeal on who was going to finish the game on Sunday, and
Right.
they wanted Mike Flanagan to do it, and Oates was like, if we're winning, you're going to finish the thing, and ended up losing it, and Frank Tanana got the last out at Memorial Stadium. So
Right.
I had forgotten you pitched all 3 and you got the last win. That was nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Johnny gave me the option. I really wish I had said no on Sunday. Oh, my arm was in pain the rest of the offseason.
That's pretty good. All right, I wanted to hit your career. 22-12. I mean,
Vulture. Straight vulture.
No hard feelings. No hard feelings.
Actually, I'll take that back. Brandon, In 95, probably one of the few wins that I earned. You might remember in 95, they expanded the roster for the first month. I was part of those extra 3 guys that I was trying to figure out how to make the team. We had a long extra inning game with the Twins. And it was playing pitching against them. I can't remember for sure if I got a win in that game or not. But it was your team that pretty much cemented my staying in Cleveland instead of heading back to Buffalo.
Nice. Oh, I'm happy that it happened. I'm happy.
Yeah, but Gregg, 22 wins. I'm pretty sure it was at least 20 vultures.
Yeah, but I kind of look at it and over the career, I was like, I finished with a winning record, and half the time you're walking into a tie game,
Yeah.
You were an established lefty coming in big spots. There wasn't a whole lot of times where you're walking in where you're losing, so the odds of picking up wins as opposed to losses when, more often than not, you're in a winning situation. 22-12 is thoroughly impressive.
I thank you. Appreciate it. First half of my career, I'd say it's pretty fair that, I had plenty of opportunity to lose it. As my career went on, I was part of teams like 95 where Ossenmacher was our head lefty. So I'd be the guy that would come in down a run with that Indians lineup, right? Just make sure that we get to the at bat and I'm the leg guy with the last out before we would, put up a 5 spot and sweeping a W that way. But I do remember more than a few times having 1 or 2 pitch wins.
Nice.
Yes. Perfect left-hander story.
That's really good.
What do you feel about the evolution of the left-hander though? Because it went from there weren't specialists, there were specialists, and now with the 3-man minimum, do you like that, hate that? How do you think that would have affected your career? Would you have been against it because it might have nudged you out of the game, or would you have liked it because it would have given you an increased role?
Yeah.
Just what do you think of the landscape of the left-hander? I'm left-handed myself too, so we got a brotherhood there.
Part of the 10%.
Exactly.
So first of all, I like the role. I have no problems with it. I think it makes the lefties be better, right? Look, I got a chance for sure. The last at least 3 seasons of my career existed because of what I had done in the beginning of my career.
Right.
I never would have been able to pitch. Nobody would pick me up in my career with the 3-person, the 3-hitter role. I don't think it would have impacted the beginning of my career, but I like it. I like the fact the lefty has to be a little bit more well-rounded. It doesn't cost anybody any jobs. It's just a new opportunity. And, are you good enough to fill that role or not? So I like it. I like the challenge that they have to be able to get both lefties and righties out.
Did you have to alter your repertoire to face righties if you had to? I mean, did you subtract or add a pitch? I know some guys won't do a left on left change up. Some guys won't do a left on right breaking ball because it goes into the swing. How did you tailor your approach based on handed of hitters that you were facing?
I basically tailored it by giving up a lot of hard hit balls, hopefully at people.
The old Adam ball.
Yeah, I look back at my career and I don't know how I lasted. I clearly had years that were, oh my gosh, bad. But I actually, one of the regrets I have as a pitcher that I didn't do something like Gregg. One of the reasons I respect Gregg so much is, I'll say it was quote unquote easy before he got hurt. And only easy, his stuff was nasty. Now, he was a closer, he had to deal with that. Nothing easy about it. But when he really showed me who he was as a pitcher, after he got hurt and he reinvented himself. And I could never do that. I hurt my arm in 92 and again in 95. And I never adjusted to that. I never picked up a 2-seamer. I never picked up a changeup or anything that was any good. And it's part of the reason my career was so up and down. So, a guy like Gregg was more, I was in awe because the guy made himself into this incredibly long career, not being the same guy he was when he started. So
I can tell you from this vantage point, he's all guts. So I'm sure you see the same.
So what? I mean, because we years together,
right.
I always sat back and looked at you like you were one of the smartest guys I've ever played with. And no, you took it very analytically, the way you approached everything, and
right.
that was something I liked, and I did copy just the approach a little bit. But why what did you try that didn't work? Did you take stuff far enough to get it into the game?
Yeah. So, all good questions. So, the changeup was the first one, and the one I tried my entire career to try to figure out. Before it was too late, what held me back was I felt like since I was out there for such a short period of time, could be as little as a pitch, probably no more than 15. I didn't make the leap to let's see what this can do, a new pitch in a clutch situation. So Gregg, you're right. I did try to be analytical, but I stayed analytical with what I did, right? Yeah. And I didn't allow myself to get over, and anxiety is the wrong word, but I didn't have the guts that you did to just say, okay, I'm trying something different here and I'm going to make it work. I tried a two-seamer and the one time I really went after a two-seamer was in 95, and I started screwing up my elbow.
Really?
Because I started twisting through the elbow for that two-seamer instead of just using my fingers. I was throwing it wrong, and because I wasn't getting any action. So I stressed the elbow then, and I ended up dealing with spurs and chips the rest of my career. And the last piece is I just wasn't a very good athlete. I mean, it's just the reality. I mean, I knew how to throw a breaking ball.
You did know. You know what?
You laugh because it's true.
Electric. Yeah. You know what? It just brought back one of our golf rounds in Florida, I believe, in spring training, where you hit the most remarkable shot I've ever seen hit.
I've put balls between my legs.
That was the shot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Never seen that where you hit the inside of the club and the ball went between your legs. Actually went across a creek that was behind us that was not in play.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I am the stereotype. I am the stereotype of pitchers not being an athlete. And what Gregg is relating to, I would love to tell you he's stretching the truth here a little bit, but it's all right on the mark.
Yep.
You can't make it up.
The physics of that are blowing my mind, let alone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brandon. I'm running through the scenario that when you did hit this ball that went between your legs and about 20 yards across a creek.
Yeah.
I'm running through the scenario of the hitter that fouls a ball off of his foot, of how close you were to hitting your right front foot.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have been able to physically finish a round of golf watching you limp around if you had hit yourself, because you only missed by a couple inches.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Gregg, I love to tell you that was the only time it happened in my golfing career.
No, seriously? You did it more?
Seriously. I was capable of a lot of things on the golf course. Rarely were any of them good.
So as a lefty, I want to ask you about mental versus physical preparation, because from my vantage point, when I see a role like Gregg has at the back of a bullpen, more so in the early of his career, it's maybe a little more predictable. Now, what I want to ask is, like you said, you threw 3 games in that last stretch there.
Yeah.
What was the mental preparation, not knowing when you'd pitch, how much you'd pitch, and then the difference between, let's say you throw 10 pitches each of 3 days versus 30 pitches one day, in terms of rehab, in terms of all that. I feel like it's so hard. People think managing a bullpen is so easy, but you have to look forward, you have to look backward, and then you have to live in the now. It's got to be a hard role to manage. It's got to be a hard role to play. It's got to be a hard role to prepare for. How did you do it?
I think, I was fortunate. I had guys like Gregg, Mark Williamson, Flanny, in that pen to help me out, because my biggest problem was throwing too much, getting ready. And that was the first thing I had to master, was not wearing myself out. So I had been a reliever all through college and the minors, but I was typically the closer. So I knew my role, right? It was a little bit easier to stay on top of it. But it was the getting up in a pen and not going in, that I really had to watch out for, and understand, okay, you're ready. You can just stand on the mound out in the bullpen, or just flip a couple occasionally. You've got that 8 out there in the game. But the getting up, getting down was the part that I mentally was, to me, it was more demanding mentally than physically, because it was easy to lose your edge as your adrenaline started pumping.
Right.
And I needed all the adrenaline I could get. That's why I loved relieving. But I said that was the biggest part, just understanding how to save my throws so that I could pitch 2 or 3 games in a row.
Well, especially
go ahead.
Especially because being a reliever, you're high effort, high intensity, and you have to learn when to throttle that back, and not knowing a finishing point. I'm sure that's the hardest part of it, is knowing how much you can give at any given time. Because if you burn out and all of a sudden you give up 3 runs in 1 appearance, your ERA is shot for the rest of the year. And that's hard.
Did that a few times. I would say I'd be interested with Gregg things, because he follows the game even closer than I do right now, some of his announcing. But I felt like back in our day, pitching 3 days in a row was not a big shock. It definitely happened. So that saving yourself, make sure you were being smart about your throws, prep in between games was important. Nowadays, I don't know if those guys really have to think about it very much. Right. It's almost a shock if they come back in back-to-back days.
You came up and I know we had a 5-man bullpen in '89. Probably had a 6-man.
I think we had 6.
One. But yeah, we had to come back. And now I'm looking at 10-man bullpens, and I'm sure there's some analytic guy going, all right, if he throws 3 days in a row, his ERA is this. He's good for 2 days, no matter what the pitch counts were. But no, I always remember, dude, you threw so much before the game at 4:30 that I was just like looking at you going, stop.
Yeah.
That's why we never played catch together, because he threw too much. And I'd be like going, you have this obligation as partners to stay with him the whole time, because he'd want to throw like 30 sliders and just, then work on some fastballs. And I'm like, I'm 10 minutes and I'm done, going, dude, I can't throw this much.
Yeah. I do remember that. That was part of my schooling going on with you, Willie, and
nobody plays catch with you.
No. Well, that was also because I couldn't play catch very well. I mean, I hit fans in Fenway and Wrigley.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, those first 10 throws from 40, 50 feet, those were a mess. I needed to get to 90 in a hurry.
So you were that guy. I didn't remember that. You couldn't toss short, early, soft?
Couldn't toss short early. Hated the bullpens on the field. because his first few throws were a bit.
What
I'm
about
telling you.
I know, but what about like Fenway, where you got that wall and you might throw it and hit the pitcher on the other side of the wall?
I'm definitely conscious of what was going on in that place too. It was terrible.
So you hated the Minnesota bullpen for sure down the first.
Oh yeah, that's right. Minnesota, Seattle, Detroit. I mean, a bunch of them were out in the field at that. San Francisco. Oh yeah, I hated all those. I couldn't wait to get the catcher down. I'm telling you, this is all about this. This is now making sense why I hit a golf ball between my legs.
Yeah.
How many balls did you throw onto the field to play?
Oh, well, easily double digits. Easily.
You know how they have that guy protect the catcher?
Yeah.
He stands there, protects catcher. He's probably turned the other way around when it's you. He's probably protecting everybody else. Yeah,
they would learn and get well away from the catcher. Yeah, they figured it out quick.
Oh man.
Oh, that's priceless.
I want to take a step back for a minute. Did the Dodgers have to ask permission to draft you a second time? Because I believe that's the rule now. The Twins had to do it with Brent Rooker, another SEC guy. Did the Dodgers have to ask you that? And did you have any doubt in your mind that you were going to be okay with it? If so,
I do not remember that being a rule at the time.
Okay, so you were just tickled to go in a higher round than last time, and actually maybe get a little bit of a bonus instead of last time, which we said 25.
Well, Brandon, you might remember I was now a senior.
Oh, senior sign. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was just about status, draft spot, but not necessarily.
It was basically, they gave me 10 grand. I asked I knew I was going to be buying an engagement ring with my bonus. And so I asked for a little bit more. I think the guy the year before had gotten 12. And he said no. I said, okay, where do I sign?
Yeah, you don't have much choice there.
So Kim's ring was a little smaller.
I talked to one guy and he said that they basically got a plane ticket and that was it. So
in those stories are all legit, right? You sign for, maybe they'll get you a glove, pair of spikes.
So what was your welcome to the big leagues moment? Because I know most, if not all guys have it. It's either the third deck syndrome or whatever they call it, where you finally step into a stadium that big for the first time on the field. Did you have a moment where you're like, holy cow, I have made it to the big leagues?
Yeah, I have to say, really, it was my first appearance. Being in state, I grew up in Philadelphia, so stadiums themselves weren't a big deal.
Okay.
But, as I said earlier, getting to the big leagues was never a likelihood. It's just something that kind of kept happening. So I got called up by the Dodgers. That day I called up. I had to warm up in the pen, another dang pen that was out on the field. Didn't get in that game. And then we end up going back to Dodger Stadium, and it's extra innings, and Tony Quinn is leading off the inning. And I have to get ready for Tony. He had been around long enough by that point. I knew dang well who he was.
Yep.
I only knew one guy on the Dodgers team. Because I had not been in spring training with him. I get called out. We're going to the field. The umpire turns his back to me and is talking to my catcher. Gregg, you will love this. This is Rick Dempsey.
Nice.
Yes. So the umpire's talking to Rick as I'm throwing, and clearly he asked him something along the lines of, what's this kid got? And I can hear Rick tell the umpire, hell, I don't know what he's got. I don't even know who he is.
I'm about to find out myself.
Yeah. So that was welcome to the big leagues. Pitch against Tony. Threw 5 pitches. He never took the bat off his shoulder, struck him out.
Wow.
The game took me out of the game. Man, I floated off the field.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Did you walk off with the baseball in your pocket?
I did not, of course. Didn't think about that. But the next day, Vin Scully handed me a cassette tape of him calling my own first appearance.
Wow.
And I still have that today. I got to convert it to electronic, and that one's a pretty cool memento.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. That is great.
Vince Scully might be the nicest human being
Yeah.
that I have had the pleasure of walking and talking to. He is just amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Give me a Tommy Lasorda story.
Yes.
Dude, I told you, you're the better storyteller.
This is this is all you.
Yeah, it's regrettably I don't have one for you. Probably partly because, well, I told you I was an electrical engineer. Well, 1990, I was going to graduate. So when Dodgers came through Atlanta, went to my professors, got my books for that quarter. So all of a sudden I'm piled down with electrical engineering manuals, textbooks. We go from there to Houston, and I'm in the locker room reading one of my double E textbooks because I'm going to be 2 weeks behind by the time the season ends. That clubhouse not only had Lasorda, it had Gibson, it had Kirk Gibson, Eddie Murray, Oral Hershiser, Dempsey. Let's say Tommy was not the only one that made sure they had some fun with me that day. So Tommy would not let anything slide like that. He was always looking to kind of, I felt like, light in the clubhouse. That was his strength. And he got to have some fun with me on that.
You're studying electrical engineering in the Dodgers clubhouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
am all, Gregg, you know me as well as anybody. I'm all geek and nerd.
No, yeah, you are. I can't believe you had the guts. You said you didn't have the guts. That's a lot of guts to walk into a major league. Yes, you got hours on your own to do stuff, but I don't think I could have left that one alone.
Yeah. You also know me well enough that I was a naive person, and I would say things that didn't need to be said. Should have kept my mouth shut, or I would do things that just wouldn't even dawn on me that it would be taken in an odd way. So again, part of my education.
That might be a lefty thing because I'm the same way.
Maybe.
I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to ask you about all the managers you played for, because as Gregg said, Tommy Lasorda, but you got Dusty Baker, Phil Garner, Terry Francona, Johnny Oates, Mike Hargrove. I'm trying to think of who I'm missing here. I mean, there's an impressive list of who's who managers from that time. We've talked about a lot of these guys. Frank Robinson, we talked about a little bit too. I don't know that you were up with him. I think you might have gotten Johnny Oates.
Yeah, but, Johnny had already taken over.
And Bobby Valentine and all that. I mean, you played for quite an array of managers. Do any of them stand out as one that you bonded with, or any one that had a specific relationship with that you remember strongly to this day?
Yeah, I think it's really it's Dusty. Partly because he was players manager, there's no two ways about it. Mm-hmm. But what always stuck with me is that when I got traded over there, I did very well for him. I got traded over the All-Star break in '96, had a great second half of the year. The Giants signed me to a 2-year contract, and I am terrible for the next year and a half, just terrible. And Dusty never stopped having my back. He was all, a lot of managers, pitching coaches, if the player wasn't going well, somehow they didn't see you in the locker room or on the field. They weren't available to you to have a conversation or whatnot. Dusty was almost the exact opposite.
Wow.
He just flat out, he was always there. He always had something positive to say, and I never forgot it.
Wow.
Yeah, I really respected him for that. It was a great lesson for me to learn as a person. So for me, Dusty's the guy that, all my managers have positives, but that where I really challenged Dusty to stay engaged with me by being so bad. And he did. So I'll never forget it. And I've always been thankful.
What was it hard to feel at home with any team since you were bouncing around so much? And early in your career, were you like, this could be a place, a type of game where I bounce around a lot? Did you not like that? Did you welcome the challenge? What was it like to bounce around? I mean, you had 11 years in the big leagues with what, 9 teams, eight teams?
Eight teams in Cleveland 3 times. Yeah. So Baltimore was definitely the close thing to home. Like I said, it was my 3rd team already, but it's where I broke through.
Yep.
And hadn't stayed for a couple of years. Actually had a home in the area. Two of my 2 boys were born in that area. So that was it. But in Cleveland, because of the experience with the Indians and the World Series, right? But after that, it's just part of the business. I was the 23rd, 24th, 25th guy, basically every team I was on.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's interchangeable, and that's the way the system was designed. That's fun. I made a great living, got to meet great people like Gregg. It was all good.
Beats the alternative of not playing in the big leagues.
Great point. Great point.
We play a little game sometimes with people when we have them on, where I kind of quiz them on guys they faced. Would you like to play? Do you think that'd be fun or not?
You can try it. Let's see.
All right. So I have a few different numbers here. You faced one batter 19 times. That was the most you faced of any batter. Do you have any idea who it was?
Boggs would be the first guy that comes to mind, but no.
Boggs is 17, tied with Wally Joyner. 19 is BJ Surhoff.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Okay. One guy has
he got me for an hour with all this.
One guy's got 8 hits off you. That's more than anybody else. Do you know who that is? Left-handed hitter, I believe.
Yeah. Well, the guys that I always tell people that drove me insane were Lance Johnson, Ozzie Guillen. Yeah. Drove me insane.
Line drive over second and shortstop.
Oh, dude, I could not figure out. If I got him out, I couldn't tell you how. I mean, it was a joke. I even dropped. I was already a low 3/4 guy.
Yeah.
I tried to go like low sidearm against Lance one day. Pulls it down the first base line for a triple. Like, come on.
See,
this is a joke.
That was the one time you probably tried that and you never went back and gave it another shot.
Never did it again.
Only one guy ever got you for multiple home runs, and he's a former teammate of, well, at least Gregg, maybe you too. Catcher. Tettleton, yes. Did you play with him?
Yeah.
Must have
I never crossed paths with me.
Okay.
No, he was with me in '89. I don't think, maybe '90, but he was there before Jim.
All right, enough of this negativity. Who did you strike out the most? There's 2 guys you struck out 5 times.
Kevin Moss.
Actually, 2 very, very good hitters. You absolutely owned Wade Boggs. 1 for 13 with 5 strikeouts, 0.77 average.
Yeah, I knew I had Wade's number. Why he struck out so much, I don't know. But I knew that when I came in to face him, I was not worried.
And the other guy had a very distinctive stance where he'd stand and lean over the plate. Big guy. Big Mo Vaughn.
Oh, yeah. By the way, Mo eventually got his revenge in the '98 playoffs. He was totally selling out for a breaking ball, and I couldn't believe it, so I threw him one. Ripped that down the right field line for a double 2. But
terrifying, man. Yeah, he was terrifying.
He was a big dude.
Speaking of doubles. Yes. 1 for 11?
Yeah, I go for 1 for 9. There's something I'm going back to the record books. I'm gonna have to dispute that. I could have sworn I had a 111 batting average, not 091. But yeah,
I got 1 for 8 on my side, so that's even better.
Oh, yeah, I like your card even better than mine.
There you go.
Carlos Perez, left-hander for the Expos.
Wasn't he this guy?
Yeah.
People got to be watching the video, but he would do the kind of like like wings when he
was different. He's a different dude. He was a good pitcher back in the day. This was when I was with the Giants, and I was not very good. So I was the guy that was mopping up innings in a bad game. So I actually faced him twice. I got the double off of him. A perfect wet newspaper ball into left center.
And you legged it out for a double?
I legged it out for a double. And then I struck him out. He came and faced me. I struck him out. I come back up around again to face him. I'm standing in the box, and I'm like, he was dead serious all of a sudden. And it was like, this guy's going to throw me a slider. And sure enough, he did. And I am a terrible hitter. So bad. But I embarrassed him with the strikeout. And so he tried to throw a slider, ball one, throws me a 1-0 slider to go to ball two. And then I actually hit the next ball way better and hit a double, but that one didn't drop.
That's a tough left. That's a tough left matchup for a guy like you.
Pretty good.
My highlights as a hitter in pro ball.
That's really good. All right, favorite moment.
It's the World Series. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Even though it didn't end up, the way I would have liked. I got a chance to come and pitch against McGriff the inning before, and got out of a 2-on, 2-out jam in the fifth. I wouldn't change a thing. Pitching in the World Series, pitching in that game, 50,000 people going nuts in Atlanta. And Gregg, I don't know about you, I always love pitching on the road in front of big crowds.
I didn't mind it. I
loved it.
I didn't hear anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it because I loved the energy of it. And then it was so many people, it was white noise. But the World Series, by far, nothing touches it.
Yeah, I like that. I hadn't thought of that terminology, but it's like you get on a golf course and somebody's talking and you can't function properly.
Yeah.
And I pitched in front of 55,000 people, and it was white noise.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I hate to pitch in front of 5,000 people, like the old municipal stadium, Cleveland, right? They could hold 75, and maybe they'd have 5,000. You heard every voice in a crowd like that.
Yeah, or Olympic Stadium in Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
Where you got 2,000 people, and you can hear the guys that talking about getting another beer, and you're like, "Oh, please stop."
Bring me one.
No doubt.
Really good. So career highlight. Let's talk about what's going on.
What's going on? Sim, sorry, say it again.
I said I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up, you came out publicly about 2 weeks ago with your diagnosis of ALS.
Mm-hmm.
And just wanted to share, what's going on with you.
Yeah, so June 15th of last year, I got diagnosed with ALS. Ironically, on the same day as my first appearance in the big leagues. That was the day I faced Tony. I had been losing, I had some issues with my left leg and left arm. Finally got to a neurologist that just put a stamp on it. And, it's life-changing in terms of hearing it. I'm the third major leaguer ever, or the third since Gregg, maybe. So I think in the article I apologized to Catfish Hunter and Lou Gehrig because I shouldn't be mentioned in the same breath. But it is what it is. Losing. I've had to become a right-hander because my left arm doesn't really operate very well. I spend my days in a wheelchair now, but it gets me around. I've had unbelievable support, starting with you, Gregg. You were one of my first phone calls, when I found out what was going on. And, I have told people this, a number of times, but it stays true. I have had a crazy blessed life, for as far back as I can remember. And going through this only makes me realize I was actually more blessed than I thought. The support has been over the top. Can't thank people enough, for what they've done for me and my family.
It's just incredible perspective.
Yeah. No, that was that was a hard conversation to have with you. And I said it in the article that came out, The Athletic, I believe, that it was, I didn't, what is it, 0.00006%?
Something like that.
And you're the third major leaguer in history. It just, I didn't know enough about it. And your self-deprecating humor of apologizing to Catfish Hunter and Gregg is so you, by the way. Yeah, brother, I just wanted, I wanted you to come on. Close friend, love you, and just wanted to talk baseball with you. And if you wanted to share what's going on, because like I said before we started recording, that you're not very good about replying to phone calls.
I can be a little slow.
Your text message took give or take 3 or 4 days for you to lock in on this one. So
I think we're at 3 days, 22 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing, and I just wanted, talk baseball with you. We don't, we're an hour and a half apart and don't get to see each other much.
No, I know. I really appreciate the opportunity. And thank you for letting me share the story about the ALS. Yeah, not something I wish on anybody or myself, but it's just life. And I've been enjoying it at least as much as before I got the diagnosis. If you don't mind, I'd like to mention 2 groups I'm associated with.
Yeah.
There's a group in California called Als Cure Project. It is actually formed in honor of Stephen Piscotty's mother, who passed away a couple years ago from it. Stephen's currently with the Oakland A's. So I'm actually on their board helping them out, the research group, and a group in New York called Project ALS. They are also a research group. Just recently put a drug trial called Procetin, which, I went going back to being a geek, got to talk to the researcher, designed it all, and I was in heaven hearing all that stuff. But another group that's working hard to find a therapy or a cure for something that's still only 2 drugs have been approved in history for ALS.
So what is that that last one you just talked about out of Philadelphia, I believe? What does that look like for you?
Well, Procetin just started its stage 1 trial, so I'm not part of that. I'm in another trial for something called Amylyx, which is supposed to help slow down the progression of disease. I think with Procetin, the idea is that might not be a cure, but may have a better chance of stopping it from regressing and some of the other drugs that have come out. But early stages, we'll see what happens. I mean, with the ALS patients, it's really a race against time. Our typical, from the time you start noticing the symptoms, it's usually a 2 to 5 year window, of lifespan. So it's a sprint for us. And, all that means is we do as much as we can while we have the time we can do it. And we hope some researcher has been supported enough to find a breakthrough.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both for letting me be a fly on the wall in this conversation. And, our thoughts and prayers obviously go out to you and your family. All the best. Thank you, Jim, so much for the time today. It was an absolute honor and a delight on my part, and I hope you enjoyed it half as much as I did.
No, I did, Brandon. I really appreciate it. Greg, thank you again for being such a good friend. Help me being a rock on my faith while I go through this, and I can't thank you enough for it. And I definitely enjoyed turning back the clock and thinking about some fun times.
Well, if you decide you want to start sharing some stories and become a little bit of a storyteller, we'd love to have you back on.
Yes.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well,
Right.
that is, yeah, I can't say it any better than that. Thank you so much for the time. He's Jim Poole, Gregg Olson. I'm Brandon Warren signing off, saying thank you so much for checking out that 90s baseball pod powered by Access Twins. We won't make you wait another month until we talk to you again, but check us out next week. Peace.
See ya.